Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, Boros +1/+1 counters today. And I'm pretty excited about this one. I'll tell you more about it in a second. I've gone ahead and kept this opening hand. We've got 2 fetch lands and a land tax. Seems very reasonable. I don't think we're on the play. No, we're not. So this is actually my second time out with this deck, and the second time that I've had Mikaeus the Lunarch in the opener, which is pretty sweet for this deck. So, as the name implies, this is a Boros +1/+1 counter deck. Built around Aurelia Exemplar. There are a couple of other choices you could go with. I did look at the background that puts counters on things, and using one of the red creatures there. It's a thing you can do. I just chose to go this way because I like Aurelia Exemplar, I'm comfortable with it, and periodically you get to use the Mentor ability in this deck, which is not something that comes up all that often in other Aurelia Exemplar builds. So, and even still with this one, it's not the main function of this deck. Like, it's a nice little thing to have when it happens, but really, like, as our creatures start getting bigger, putting trample on the red ones is nice, vigilance on the white ones. So that's what really kind of makes it helpful, but it is nice that, you know, it does kind of meet the theme of the deck as the commander because it does put +1/+1 counters on stuff. So anyway, that's that whole bit on it. Brings it to our turn 1 here. Let's go ahead, play an Arid Mesa, crack an Arid Mesa. Should have went for the Scalding Tarn. Whoops. Good. Scalding Tarn can't find Misfell Plains. But anyway, we're going to get the plateau right here, and then drop in the land tax. That's a Dowsing Dagger for Flintlock. Who's getting the plants? Jenka getting the plants. Cool. Signet coming in. Brings back to our turn. There's a land tax trigger. How many are we going for? We're going to draw one that'll put us to 7. I think I'm only going to land tax for 1 right here. I don't really want to discard yet, so we'll get up plains. And we draw a Flooded Strand. How about that? Okay, let's go ahead, play the plains, and then we'll cast the Mikaeus for X1. And then we can just start tapping it on our other turns to pump it up a little bit more. And I had this come up in the last game, so this is the second game I filmed with this deck. The first one was interesting. I haven't decided if I'm going to show it or not. Some cool things happened in it, but I land flooded so hard. It was very, very frustrating how many lands I drew in that game, and the top 30 cards of the deck were like almost entirely lands. So the main idea of this deck is that there are a bunch of really cool interactions, stuff that I haven't really messed around with that much. I haven't done a lot of +1/+1 counter stuff, especially not in Boros. You know, this deck is a little less tuned than other things. It doesn't have quite as much removal ramp and card draw as other decks that I tend to run because I just wanted to jam as many fun things into it as I possibly could. As we see a Blackblade Reforged, a Fire and Ice, and a Dowsing Dagger come into play. That's actually like terrible news for us because the removal in this deck is a little bit lacking because I tried to keep the creature count very high. I apologize in advance if I do end up showing the other video, because if I do, that means you're going to hear all the exact same stories twice. But I do want to tell the story of this deck because I think it's very interesting. Hopefully this game goes better than the last one. Let's see, we got another land tax trigger. What are we actually going to do this turn? We don't actually have a play on 3. We can sit on the Volt Charge, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's what we're doing. I think we're going no on the land tax. Shinewind, haha, a play. A very serious play because this one's enchantments only. It doesn't blow up the artifacts. We need one of the other ones that blows up artifacts. Oh, so excited we can get rid of all these stupid swords. These swords will beat you. You let them stay out there. Okay, that being the case, let's play the Shinewind. We'll play the Flooded Strand, crack the Flooded Strand, and then we'll get the Misfell Plains tapped. We'll put a +1/+1 counter on Mikaeus. So next turn we're on track to cast our commander, which seems like a pretty good place to be. But anyway, the story of this deck. So, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 ago, I had the idea that like, maybe you can do a Boros +1/+1 counter deck, because I saw someone doing something somewhere that, you know, most of my ideas come from me seeing something from an opponent in a game or someone in the Discord talking about something, you know. Many of them don't just magically come out of thin air. Some do. But yeah, usually I see someone talking about something. I'm like, oh, that could be a cool idea. Anyway, somehow I got onto this Boros +1/+1 counter thing. And I started going through and just putting every Boros card that has to do with +1/+1 counters into a pile or into a deck on Magic Online. And let me go find that deck. So this is the original card pool that I came up with for the deck. This is 211 cards. It turns out there are way more things that care about +1/+1 counters in these colors than I had previously thought. I really thought it was going to be a pretty unsupported deck, and as I started going through all these cards, I'm like, I think there's actually some really cool stuff in here, and a lot of it's stuff you don't get to run in a lot of different places, so that also makes it exciting. But like, so I started cutting this deck and trying to get it down to a playable deck size, and I got it down to about 174. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't cut it any further. And like, I just got really stuck on the cuts. So I actually passed it off to Mango, who is a very good deck builder. And Mango made their own version of the list. We drew the land after the land tax. That's always so brutal. Anyway, let's play the Scalding Tarn, keep pulling lands out of the deck. Sacred Foundry, untapped, cast our commander. Did this lose a counter? We go to combat. Oh, we can put the thing on here. Start poking people. How about that? Kemba's kind of scary. No flying over there. We'll get him in the air for 3. I don't know what happened, but this should have 2 counters on it. Or this should have 3 counters on it, because it came in with 1. We tapped it last turn, and then we tapped it again now. I don't know what happened last turn. Or if someone, like, removed a counter with something weird. Oh! Sean hit it with Volrath, is what he did. Okay, now I'm following. Anyway, back to the story of this deck. So, yeah, we started with 211 cards, and I got to, like, 174 and was like, I can't do this. This is too hard. I want to run all of these cards because there's so many interesting things. Rage Forger, Aurelia, Prey Sizer, Dragon. There's one you don't ever see. Goblin Raise Runners looks halfway decent. So there's just so many little things. So I sent it over to Mango. Mango sent me their version of the deck. As I started looking through Mango's version, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff I still want to play that's not in Mango's version. So I don't know. I probably changed about 10 or 15 cards from what Mango sent over. But even still, Mango actually cutting the deck down to 100 just allowed me to get to a place that was like, okay, I can at least like work on this now, because 174 is so many cuts, and it was just so painful trying to cut everything because, yeah, this deck is supposed to be fun, right? And like when you have all the fun cards laid out, you're just like, I want to run all of these. So I appreciate Mango's help and in trying to get this deck to a playable state. I will say that like the creature count is still pretty high. If you were to cut about 3 creatures from this deck and add like an equipment tutor, a piece of removal, and another piece of card draw, that'd probably do wonders for the deck performance-wise. But because it's only the second time out, I still just really want to like test everything. So, you know, everything's like firmly in the like testing phase. I tried to jam as many interesting things in as I could, and that meant sacrificing some of the stuff that, you know, does actually make you win games, which is removal and such. So here's a Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, opponent's got some pretty good stuff over there. These are all things. If for some reason Sean puts a minus counter on that, I would Volt Charge that. By the way, I'm also fighting a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little funny, if I cough a little, that is why. Opponent does equip Blackblader Forge to the Kemba, so they're going to be spitting out tokens. And also Kemba is going to get rather large. We're good until it finds evasion. Once it finds evasion, that's probably an issue. Volrath going to put another counter on the Machias. Don't love it. Goes back down to 2. Wait, or did they choose not to do it? I don't know what just happened. There's another Signet for Sean. Though he's living a little hard off the Signets. He is going to want to find some lands somewhere. What's funny about Volrath is that Sean will basically be able to copy all the creatures in our deck because most of them are going to have +1/+1 counters most of the time, so there is that. He's going to put a Champion's Helm on the Volrath. It's going to make it difficult to kill. I put the minus counter on the Kemba. Yeah, that's not bad for him getting some blockers for himself. Brings back to our turn. There's another land tax. Oh, I got 3 lands in hand. I'm going to say no. Oh, another land. Yeah, this always seems to happen with land tax. This is actually why I don't run it on Magic Online. This is actually a problem. I've tried to test it, and it's like, you know, maybe it's anecdotal because, yes, at some point you're going to draw lands after your land tax, but, like, it just seems to be so much worse and so much more painful on Magic Online. I don't know why. Okay, what are we doing? We're definitely going to do some attacking. What's this do? This puts counter on target creature you control. Yeah, so I think we just put this on the Machias. Machias goes up to 3 counters, and then we'll go to combat. Having Aurelia as a blocker is going to be a good idea right here. So I'm going to put the trigger on Aurelia just so she has vigilance. We can attack with this and get a counter on that. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So we'll send this one into Sean, this one into Jenka. And there's a Mentor trigger. Let's Mentor the Shinewind. So if any enchantments ever show up, we should have lots of ways to blow them up. Ideally, you probably want to play this later in the game after they're already in play, but we just needed plays early on, so... So in the last game, I did actually get to like do some like pretty cool interactions. There was one where I attacked with this and mentored this, and that was kind of exciting. And some other stuff. But then like later on, I just ran out of steam because I couldn't draw anything that wasn't lands. So that was super frustrating. I would like to see some of the Ajanis because like on a board like this, the Ajanis look pretty cool. So we're going to crack a fetch right there, pull another land out of the deck. Hope that we stop drawing lands at some point. Wouldn't be sad to see a wheel. Kemba is going to make some tokens. Yep, gets token out of the deal. So I'll give a read of our commanders because we haven't actually read it yet. So it's Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, 4 mana, 2/5, Flying Mentor. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target creature you control. Until end of turn, it gains 2/0, Trample if it's red, and Vigilance if it's white. So those keywords are super helpful for when things start getting bigger. And you know, I do like the kind of the decision making of where do you put that trigger, because I've had various Aurelia Exemplar decks over the years, and it's reasonably powerful at 4 mana. It's not a value generator like most things at 4 mana now are value generators, which she is not. But she does do a lot for her mana cost in combat, in getting damage in. As a 2/5, it's like pretty tough to attack into for at least a ways, unless of course someone has a Blackblade Reforged. Whisper Silk Cloak. Ugh. Oh my god, just all the equipment. So much Voltron. You know, I actually don't run Voltron that much in like more mid-power games anymore because it can be pretty uninteractive. Like, you stack a Blackblade Reforged, some form of unblockable, and it's just like, oh, people are just dead now, right? If you're in a situation where, like, you want people to play the game a little bit, Voltron doesn't always allow that. So, yeah, I don't know. Opponent's coming out of the gate pretty hard here. This deck is just, it doesn't have the tools. Puts the Dowsing Dagger and the Fire and Ice on the Goldspan Dragon. They make a treasure. Also, they got their Hazoret into play, which is their commander. That's going over to Sean. Basri's Lieutenant is cool. Kristen used to run this card a lot, and she said she really liked it for the board wipe protection aspect because when creatures with +1/+1 counters on them die, you get 2/2 Knights back out of it. So if someone wipes the board, you're going to get a bunch of 2/2s, which is nice because then you're not left with nothing, right? You can kind of keep your momentum up as opposed to everyone else who has to rebuild. Opponent flips into the Lost Veil, shoots Sean with the Fire and Ice. No, shoots a token with the Fire and Ice. Gets rid of one of the cats. Yeah, that's a lot of value. That's a really good turn. I don't know. I mean, we can slam a True Conviction and just, you know, start swinging away, but... Capricious Efreet, not on my radar. I've seen it, but I forget what it does. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 2 non-land permanent you control and up to 2 non-land permanents you don't control. Destroy 1 at random. Oh, God. Well, that might be a way to get rid of, you know, Blackblade Reforged. Stuff like that. That's out of the, what is that, the original Commander product? No, that's 15. It's like 14 or 15 right there. Forget which symbol that is. One of the early Commander products. 13? Maybe it's 13. This is not a card that I don't think I've ever seen played. Helm of Awakening is a really spicy Magic card. It's a very risky card to run. This is Sean's Helm's Deep deck, so it's going to have a bunch of sea creatures and a bunch of Helms. Helm of Awakening, though, makes all spells cost 1 less for all players. So you can have some pretty big turns with it. Well, oh god, Whelming Wave. Return all creatures to their hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. I guess it slows the game down, but not for Sean. I guess the Helm of Awakening makes it a little bit... Oh, bounces their commander. Okay. That's less terrible. We still have to recast everything, which is annoying, but the Helm of Awakening's in place, so it'll be a little bit easier than it was. We using land tap? No, we have so many lands in hand. Way too many things in hand. Cathar's Crusade. Oh, God. Let's start by playing a land. We're at 10, so ideally we want to try to get 3 cards out of our hand here. We have 6 total mana. This would be 3. That would be 3. How much can we get Mikaeus in for X1? Yeah, I think we can. So let's recast Aurelia. Cast Shinewind. And then cast the Mikaeus. For X2. That's not terrible. And we get to rebuild first, so, you know, that can be helpful. Slowed us down a little, didn't slow us down like tons and tons. We haven't ramped it all, though. Right now, the only ramp we have is Sean's Helm of Awakening. It's not really a recipe for winning the game, especially when we got a Lost Veil over here, a Goldspan Dragon that's kind of bouncing around. Probably going to come back and shoot something. Kemba back to play. Yep. Nykthos. Gross. Next turn, I'm thinking about going Cathar's Crusade, Bastards Lieutenant, unless something else cool shows up. Re-equip the Blackblade. Yep. It's huge. So we were talking about the deck earlier. Let me get back to the actual deck list here. So here's the actual deck that we're running right now. Like I said, little light on ramp removal and card draw. Probably want like 1 or 2 more of each, which means you don't get to run 30 creatures when that's the case. But there are just so many interesting things in this deck. Slumbering Dragon, there's one you don't get to run ever. Could be okay, haven't seen it yet. Lion Sash seems really good for this deck. Great Sword of Tyr is just fun in general, and definitely outperforms the fact that it's a cheap common. Agitator Ant is one that I'm really excited about. Krenko is just good. Lelia is pretty solid. Rage Forger looks really cool. All Will Be One, I got in the last game, and that can do some crazy stuff, especially when you have like something that puts counters on everything. You can start shooting stuff down pretty quickly. Gleam of Battle can be pretty cool. It's best in Ishin because you get 2, and like 2 is a big deal. 1's okay. But, you know, it fits the theme of the deck. Sigarda's Summons looks really good, turns them all into 4/4s. So there's just a lot of really cool things. Goblin Raise Runners. We're not going to be using that land part, but at the beginning of your end step, shoot a player or planeswalker for the amount of +1/+1 counters on it. So a little bit of direct damage right there. Thundering Raiju and Kami of Celebration, both cool cards that care about modified stuff. So yeah, there's just a lot of like interesting things. Siege Veteran, Orzhov Advocist. Yeah. Oh god, opponent casts Sunbird's Invocation, Goldspan Dragon, and gets a Basilisk Collar. Just all the equipment. It's gonna minus the Mikaeus. Don't love it. 9/7 over to Flintlock. It's got a Helm of Cauldra, which is first strike, trample, and haste. And it's got a Champion's Helm on it. Yeah, I think we're looking at 3 Voltron decks. That is not amazing. One of these creatures somewhere blows up artifacts. It's not Shinewind. Constable of the Realm can exile them. Wouldn't be sad to see that one. There's an Austere Command. Yeah, there probably needs to be more removal in this deck. Quite honestly. We're using land tax. We'll go no. Citadel Siege. Oh, that's interesting. I really want to go Cons mode. We might have to go Dragons mode because of all the Voltron decks. And this is actually really powerful against Voltron decks. We'll give it a turn and see how things shape up, because this turn I want to go, let's get the Mountain, let's get the Cathar's Crusade, and then we'll get the Bastards Lieutenant. So we can put a counter on a thing. Let's put a counter on Mikaeus. We put a counter on each creature we control. Yeah, Cathar's Crusade is going to be ridiculous for this deck. I mean, it's ridiculous in most decks anyway, even more so for this one. Yeah, we can probably do some attacking somewhere. Aurelia is now a 3/6, which is nice. Who's getting the trigger? Yeah, no great attacks on the ground, really. So we'll go trigger on Aurelia. We'll activate Mikaeus one time. Pump the team a little. We'll send the bigger one into Jenka because they have more life, and we'll send... Nope. Flintlock has a blocker. Maybe we'll go on the other way then. Send the big one into Flintlock, and we'll send this one into Jenka because they have no flying. Ooh, there's another Mentor trigger. Love it. So once a really long time ago, shortly after Aurelia Exemplar came out, I got a Knight of the White Orchid into play, and then mentored it twice with Aurelia, and a 4/4 first strike for 2 mana that ramped you 1 is, like, really good. That thing was just kind of tearing up the battlefield. Now, in this game, it wouldn't do as much, because big Voltron decks all over the place, but, you know, against people doing, like, smaller value stuff, that thing just has attacks for days. And it was just, I don't know, it was one of those exciting moments where you're like, this looks massive right now because it's a 4/4 first strike and just nothing else can deal with it at the moment. Man, if we get an all-is-one on this board state, some silly stuff's going to happen. Equips the Stoneforge Masterwork, yep. And the Whisper Silk Cloak. Oh my god, the clock. The clock on these decks is ridiculous. Oh, we could have shot the Sunbirds. Ooh, that was a boo-boo. Should have left mana for that somewhere. Next turn we definitely need to do that. Hopefully before it beats us. Problem is we have, like... I mean, this one is theoretically blockable. I know it'll become unblockable at some point, but... First Strike Trample is a lot to deal with. We'll need to get really big. Actually, we have this thing. Protection from Multicolored. Okay, that can block that. 10-12 coming our way. Do not love it. Though, so I have to wonder, like, if we just drop True Conviction and send everything there, do they just die? I'd prefer to not have to do that. Like, I'd like this game to go a little longer than it has, but yeah, everyone's decks are just kind of like very focused into what they're doing, and hasn't really been a lot of hard removal. So yeah, even chill decks, when there's no hard removal, things are going to get pretty wacky by turn 7. Feel a lot better if I had a Settle the Wreckage or something to my name. There's Hazoret from their hand, which does trigger the Sunbirds. I did have Sunbirds in this deck for a second. I probably need to put it back in, just because this deck is really struggling on card draw. The other thing you could do too, I could put more equipment tutors and just like make sure that you have Mask of Memory, because right now there's like either 0 or 1. Again, because I was trying to get the fun spicy stuff in. Citadel Siege is a card that's been on my radar for like since it came out, more or less, and I've run it at points over the years, but like it's hard. There just aren't tons and tons of decks where you're like, I need this over some other 4-drop, because in white, they insist on making every like decent card 4 mana, so you just you can only run so many 4-drops in your deck. And like if Keeper of the Accord, God, if Keeper of the Accord was 3, that'd be a free deck slot that comes back into every one of my decks. And I get that it's probably too good at 3, but like, oh, they're gonna Chaos Warp the Shine Wind. I hope we hit something crazy. Yeah, that's gonna be Sun Titan. Not terrible. Only lands in our graveyard, but ramp is good. We do have big expensive things in our hand we want to cast. It's also like a lot more damage. They're going to Generous Gift the Cathar's Crusade. That's frustrating. Well, at least they did it with the trigger on the stack, because now the elephant's going to get pumped up. Use the ability. Do we have any mountains left? Find out. Should have probably gone with the plane. But well, next time if we get another trigger, it's going to have to be a plains. Oh, 1 left, thank God. Capricious Freak come, oh God, into the Sunbirds. That's a 6-mana card. What do they find? Bloodmark Mentor, red creatures you control at first strike. That's fine. It could be so much worse than that. Sends Dragon over to Jenka. That is Jenka piloting the Kemba deck, by the way. At the beginning of their upkeep, they make a 2/2 for each equipment attached to Kemba. Kind of one of those classic commanders, been around, God, probably more than a decade at this point. So going back 10 years, too, this was probably one of your more popular mono-white commanders, just because Mono White has had its struggles over the years. This one actually generates a fair amount of value, though, it's always kind of suffered the Voltron problems of just being very fragile, and kind of, if you shoot the commander, things go terribly. But it can still beat you. I have lost to this deck many, many times over the years. In the middle, we've got Sergeant Flintlock piloting Hazoret the Fervent. An interesting deck that I'm like, I've always kind of wondered, like, what do you do with Hazoret? Because discarding in red is like a pretty big cost. It can't attack unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. It's like not the best. And I'm sure there's ways to make it work. Like, if you start playing a lot of stuff out of exile, that could be one way to get around it. Could be interesting. But it's one of those weird things that's just like, I don't know. I never played it, and it's always kind of like, what do you do with it? Because it's not like a really well-supported strategy in red to be discarding all your stuff. In this case, it looks like they're just going for Voltron, and that seems fine. Drop all the swords. Yeah, they have any creatures in here? No, not yet. Yeah, if they got doubles, oh God, and they can equip one. What's the Light and Shadow? Light and Shadow is going to be pretty good against us. That's tough. God, a Vandal Blast would make me so happy. Thran Dynamo. Horned Helm. Awesome. Which one is this? Trample. Okay. Trample. Well, he's got double Trample now, but yeah, Trample's not as bad. If it's one of the, like, literally can't be blocked, that's an issue. We're at 10 Commander, by the way, so it's sort of like, I don't care for this at all. Minus counter on. Oh, he puts it on the dragon finally. Nice, we can shoot the dragon with the Volt Charge. Been waiting to do that. Opponents should be very surprised when they see Volt Charge. I've been waiting to get someone with this. I actually found a really cool use case for this. In my Ashling deck, I run Myojin of Roaring Blades, which comes in with the Divinity counter, or an Indestructible counter, or whatever it is. You can proliferate that counter with Volt Charge. I missed it in the game that I saw it where I kind of stumbled onto it. I'm like, I could have, before activating it, proliferated it, then activated it, because I have 2. That would have been super sick. Sean's going to have Volrath become a dragon. Probably should have did that before. Well, I guess he's out of cards. Does the treasure make that much of a difference? Yeah, maybe a little bit, because... Note he can No, he doesn't have the lands to untap his commander. He didn't use his lands particularly well this turn. He should have been tapping signets more than anything. That is an Agitator Ant. At the beginning of your end step, a player may put 2+1/+1 counters on each creature they control. Go to each creature that had counters, put it on it this way. That's interesting. Also, we've run out of land tax. Yeah, I was worried about that at some point, but play the mountain. The Outlast guy has that gives everything lifelink, but so does this. So the problem is, if we kill a player, people turn their attention toward us. In particular, the Kemba turns their attention toward us. Really don't like having 10 commander damage from that Kemba. But our only out to dealing with it is just killing them, which doesn't feel great. But they didn't have. We got Shroud and Hexproof, so annoying, and then Pro White. Ugh. But I also want to gain life because our life is not super high. But if we drop a True Conviction, we definitely get attacked. God, can we almost? Oh God, Sean's got 19 damage on. Okay, maybe we play the Battle Priest instead, because that won't get us targeted the same way that True Conviction will. Who do we have 10 from? Just Kemba? Just Kemba. Okay, so Sean doesn't have the damage on us yet. Yeah, I know we could probably blast 2 people out of the game. Well, we can blast. We could kill Jenka, or we could kill Sean. I don't think we can kill Flintlock because of the white sword. Oh, wait. Is this thing have flying? Oh, that doesn't have flying. All right, let's reconfigure that math. We can kill. Yeah, he doesn't have a flyer. We could kill Flintlock. The problem is if we do that, we just die to the Kemba. God, that's frustrating. I was asking opponents, what do you want me to do here? Because, I was kind of hoping this game would go a little longer than this, just because I wanted to see more stuff. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So, slam a True Conviction. Then Volt Charge the cat token. Is this more damage by itself, or we get to proliferate, so no one ever sees the Volt Charge. Okay, so let's see. This would be 8 damage if it just attacks. This would be also 8 damage if we put the counter on stuff. Let's get the Agitator Ant into play. Tap the Machias and pump the team. Go to combat, Aurelia trigger on herself. So this, what is that? That's 18 plus 12 is 30. That's plenty right there. That stupid Pro White Sword is an issue. How much is this? That'll be 16 plus 12. 16 plus 12 is 28. So let's send this one over to Jenka. It doesn't really matter where we send that one, I guess. And this one at Jenka. Nope. Attack like that. Mentor on the Elephant. Sun Titan back a land, getting the Flooded Strand this time. Sun Titan, our only ramp this game. And the Helm from Sean. Use the ability. Crack the land. Get a Plains. That's also why I didn't pull all the lands out with land tax earlier. Mentor. First strike hits. Opponents go to 11 and 6. Second strike hits, and 2 of them go down. We go to the end step, and we get an Agitator Ant trigger. Sure. We'll Agitator Ant some stuff. Let's keep pumping Aurelia up, because this thing's going to get pretty big and nasty, I think. Yeah, we'll pump Aurelia. If he can rip a board wipe off the top... Oh, we still have the 2/2s with the double strike. It'd have to be a board wipe that I don't think exists in those colors. You almost need an austere command kind of thing. There is a world in which he finds something that also just kills us, if he can sneak it through. Copies the Agitator Ant. Weird choice. I might recommend the Aurelia just because. Yeah, really, copying Aurelia is pretty good. That is a lot of flying first strike trample. Minus is the Aurelia. Yep. Oh, no, copies the Aurelia. Yeah, okay. He's got his own 12/10 Aurelia with some stuff on it. He's got first strike, which we do not have. Which also means... Oh, we have first strike because of... Yeah, we have True Conviction. Okay, that gives us first strike. The problem is... It's going to hurt. We're up to 72. This is a lot of commander damage, though. We can block. Yeah, I think we're better off not blocking. If he pulls a rabbit out of a hat somehow, that's fine. Orzhov Advocist. There you go. Send everyone? Hope it's enough. It's got to be enough. We get the Mentor. We can Mentor the Sun Titan. Yeah, that seems good. Sun Titan back a land. Down Sean goes. I was actually pretty concerned. With all the unblockable hexproof Voltron happening in this game, I was actually like very, very concerned. I've played this deck twice now. The interactions in this deck are actually really cool. Like, I've actually been really enjoying this deck. It's maybe not one that I want to play in paper. Maybe I'll play it in paper. I don't know. We'll see. Just because tracking +1/+1 counters in paper is horrendous. Much easier, much nicer to track online, so it might just be an online deck. We'll see. But I do really enjoy the interactions in this deck, and like we didn't even get to see a couple cool things. So Mikaeus was really fueling the put counters on all of our stuff. We did have Cathar's Crusade in there for a little bit. I was hoping to get to an all will be one. That's a really spicy card. The Raijus are both really cool, or the Kami and the Raiju. Yeah, there's just cool stuff in this deck. I want to get a better look at Agitator Ant. Like, it kind of showed up late when we sort of already had things sealed there. Like, the goal is kind of to get like Agitator Ant, get Siege Veteran, get Luminarch Aspirant, get that kind of stuff going. And I think that'll be a lot of fun too. But so far the deck's been a lot of fun. This game we got lucky in that there wasn't that much removal. If a single board wipe goes off, then we're hurting pretty bad just because we lose a lot of stuff. And then it's kind of that question of like, how well do we rebuild? In its current iteration, this deck doesn't rebuild all that well. So basically what's going to need to happen at some point is I'm going to have to reduce the number of things that deal with +1/+1 counters a little bit to get more removal ramp, card draw, a piece of recursion or two would be good. So yeah, this deck is still very much in that mid-power category. It's kind of holding back. I'm still kind of testing stuff out. Would love to see a Slumbering Dragon at some point. Haven't been able to get a look at that one yet. Find out if it's really worth it or not, but it looks cool. I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel, vote on which decks I play next, or if you want to get some good games of Spell Table, be sure to check out my Patreon at the link below.